Hey everybody, welcome back to the ZMAM show. It is October 5th, and this is the month for horror, thriller movies, and everything else in between. I have Adam here with me, and I had the privilege of sitting with Adam and us watching The Lost Boys, 1987, an amazing vampire flick, in my opinion. And we have Adam here to kind of talk about his impressions seeing this movie 33 years after being created, 1987. What a great year, I'm sure it was. I think I was like all but 4 years old. But it doesn't matter. It's good times. Welcome, Adam. How's it going?
Good. Yeah, no, 1987 year my sister was born, actually. So, hadn't seen the movie before. It was good time watching it with you. I'm looking forward to talking about it with the viewers here. And yeah, as soon as you're ready, let's get started.
Very good. And just so you know, the purpose of this tonight's video, we're just kind of talking our feelings on, and just kind of getting back into, I don't know, just the feelings that we had when we saw The Lost Boys. And I've seen that movie way too many times. I mean, I could probably quote the whole entire thing if I needed to. I don't need to, but I've definitely seen it probably a good 20 or 30 times. It's amazing. It's just a fun one. If I'm editing or if I just want something on in the background, I'll just toss it on. And I'll tell you, one of the biggest things that grips me about this movie is just the soundtrack alone. Like, that 80s music, everything from the concert on the boardwalk when the boys are first finally getting into town, right? And you remember you got like the Shawn Michaels guy at him that's up there. Remember you said that?
Yeah, he did look like Shawn Michaels.
And it was just a feel good rock song, you know. And everybody's just kind of partying, having a good time. And I'm like, man, this is good times. And you have the intro song we talked. I'll let you go into that in a second. But don't even talk about the scene when they're riding their bikes, like you said, through the mist in the forest. When Michael's following Kiefer Sutherland, David, right? And Star, and it's really feel good times, and you just kind of grips you right into it.
Actually, one of the things I'll talk about is even just the opening scene. Like there's this overhead shot of the boardwalk. Mm-hmm. In Santa Clara where the movie takes place, and then it kind of transitions into Sam and Michael and their mother who are moving to Santa Clara. And it's funny because just a couple of shots and you already know the setting of the movie, and they didn't have to say anything.
That's true.
Very small thing, but honestly, first 5 minutes, in my opinion, brilliantly done. I was hooked within the first 5 or 10 minutes of watching it.
So I remember that when we were sitting there and we were watching it, and so they started with the song "People Are Strange," right? And I forget who that's by, but irrelevant. But they're playing it, and they're basically showing just all the odd people you really find in Cali when you're down on the boardwalks and by the beach line, and just a lot of vagrants and just kind of people just kind of lost, and some not so much, maybe workout guys and girls in their bikinis and everything else, but there's a lot of strange people, whether they seem normal or not normal. Strange just in general, right? And you're right, it's a lot of compelling, just fun scenes, roller coasters. It's setting the tone for this movie. And that tone stays, and I think that tone is kind of like exciting, thrilling, and yet strange in this whole concept of the vampires as we move in. And Lost Boys takes an interesting take on the vampires. We end up finding out that there is one master kind of controlling things, but at first we don't fully understand that. We're just following Michael, the older brother, which played by Jason Patric, a completely underrated actor. That man is amazing. He did have some other great roles throughout the years, but unfortunately just never got that true breakout role, AAA films. But of course that's opinionated, but either way. But yeah, we're following Michael as he kind of catches the eye of Star, right, at that boardwalk concert, and he just kind of gets hooked to her, and then he gets kind of entwined with David and his boys, Marco, Paul, and Dwayne. And yes, we did have to look up and find out Dwayne's name because we don't think it was even said.
Yeah, really sad. Right. No, and to kind of add to that, I think what I really liked about following Michael's story and to some extent Sam's story is Michael goes through this transition in the movie where, spoiler alert, while he's, he follows Star, who's hanging out with this crew of vampires and turns out to be a half vampire herself. and he's so compelled to follow her that he kind of goes along with this group.
Right.
Well, it's funny because in the process of becoming a vampire, I remember one of the things I was saying to you when I was watching the movie is that most times when you're a vampire, it's like on switch, off switch. Well, Michael was very much the entire movie dealing with the transition of becoming a vampire,
right.
his relationship with his brother, his mom, his grandfather. I thought it was really cool how his relationships with other people were just as important in his character development as the fact that he was transitioning from being a human to being a vampire. I really appreciated that dynamic.
I fully agree with you, and I think that's why this movie is so amazing, is because you actually feel for the characters from the beginning.
Right.
You see Michael and Sam, and like you said, from the boardwalk scene, and when they finally get to the house, and remember Grandpa's on the staircase laying down, on his back, and he goes, I think he's dead, and he goes, no, playing dead, and right from the start, I mean, I saw you over there just kind of laughing and just kind of, because it's good, it was good, just kind of humor, but as Grandpa's going through the rules and things of the house, whatever, you can see Michael kind of playing with Sam, like he starts picking at his ear, and then Sam will brush him away, and then suddenly Sam does something to Michael. I mean, it was just, you could see their dynamic, and they loved each other, obviously as brothers. And the mom obviously really cared about them. She was, I guess, recently divorced or who knows what, but they're making their fresh start, in Cali, living with the grandfather. So, but it's those relationships, and then moving forward, like you said, watching Michael as that fateful night when he finally does follow David and all the others to the underground hotel, vampire hotel, and he ends up drinking the blood of David, and he doesn't know, and it was really well set up, because remember when I mentioned to you that they were using the power of suggestion, because a lot of vampires can do that, right? You remember David was like, hey Michael, how are those maggots, how do they taste? And he's eating the Chinese rice, the rice, and he goes and looks down and he sees them, but then there's nothing there. So they were really fooling with him, and then by the time he got to the wine scene, he's like, yeah, sure, blood, It was just like, right. No, Michael, don't do it. And and I don't know what it is too, and let me know what you think about this, Adam. I'm curious. But throughout the movie, and I think it's really creepy and well done, but they keep doing those, and it's a lot. I mean, I swear to God, we should have counted, and there probably already is a count out there, but I mean, the name Michael is probably used over 100 times, if not more, during this movie.
Yeah, and I can tell you, and other viewers might have a different take on it, I hardly noticed it. And I both noticed it and didn't. I felt like it was executed so well that it didn't get old.
Yeah.
Like it was just kind of a way of accentuating the transition he was going through. And it really kind of, the fact that he didn't really want to. And so it was almost this kind of like this urge that was tormenting him that he wanted to get away from. And I think when they said, like you said, they go, Michael. I mean, I think that was the director's way of saying, this is really eating at this character. And I think it worked really well.
It did. It did work really well. And not to mention that lead song, which, help me out, Adam, I don't know the name of it.
Cry Little Sister is the name of the song.
I even have that in my list of songs. I don't know why I was
no, you're good.
Pause on that for a second. But yeah, Cry Little Sister, and I think they may have adjusted it just a little bit for the cinematic version, but it was done so well.
It's funny because if you listen to the entire song, like the refrain of the song is very upbeat and kind of, very like 80s power ballad style.
Right.
But like the verses are very kind of dark and deep. And so I think part of why it succeeds so well is they can use both of the different components of the song to kind of showcase in my opinion, or kind of a varying amount of emotions that are being present in that movie. So yeah, I think it's the perfect theme song for the movie.
And if in ways, I mean, kind of going deep on this for a second, like it kind of is like foreshadowing what Michael's really getting into. I mean, do we even really need that? No, we don't, because we can already see, and what's happening to him, right? And that interesting montage, as we call it, when it's kind of fading Michael in and out, and it's got different angles of him. It shows it shows a wide shot of him drinking the wine, then it shows a closer up shot, and it's kind of fading, and it's showing him just kind of drifting, and he's smiling a little bit because it's like he almost doesn't even know what's happening to himself, but he's being taken over. And this isn't the traditional style where normally if you get bitten by the vampire or if you get the blood of the vampire, you usually die and then you come back, right? That's most of the stories most of us know with Dracula and some of the other films. But this one, yeah, like we were talking, Star's a half vampire, so is Laddie, the little boy that hangs out with Star and the crew. But now obviously Michael has joined this rank, and it starts spiraling out of control, once Michael starts learning more about what this crew is really up to. And, so we don't let this draw too long of a video, but, that I call this, remember the scene, okay, when when David took Mike, he says, Michael, if you ever want to see Star again, you need to come with us now, right?
Yeah.
So they go to that tree, and it's overseeing those partier rock guys down there, right? And they're just getting drunk and doing their thing by the bonfire. And then you get the full reveal, right? Because all throughout the movie, whenever we were seeing certain people get taken out, like early in the movie, like the security guard guy, or those the couple that was messing with him on the boardwalk, right? But you never see them. You always you kind of hear that interesting bat kind of sound, right, as they're flying, and which I love that for when we knew that they were moving through the air or going along, jumping a long distance or something. And I don't know, just knowing that was coming, you're like on edge. But they never were showing them, and I thought that was really, really smart. It's kind of like the Jaws reveal, right, with the shark. In the beginning scene, you don't see the shark. You just see the girl getting whiplash left and right in the water, and you don't know what's going on. You don't even see the shark until like over halfway through the movie.
Yeah. It's a very similar concept, and honestly, I think this would be a really fun movie to watch, going in knowing nothing about it. Like, I went in knowing that it was a vampire movie, but to watch it with the idea that a lot of people would probably figure it out, but even still, just the fact that there's enough doubt there, that there's enough shadow of a doubt to get you thinking, well, what are they?
Right.
Are they this? Are they that? But they foreshadow it well enough that most people, by the time the reveal really happens, they're going to know. But it's still, I think it adds to the suspense a little bit. Even the slightest speck of doubt, I think, makes the reveal that much more enjoyable, even though most of us saw it coming.
And you're right, we do see it coming. But what's interesting about monster movies, a lot of them follow a certain formula, and that's to be expected, unfortunately. But there's also kind of like these sets of rules, right? The rules like for the monsters and even for like the heroes and the heroines or whatever. So just knowing, what can take out the vampires. I think there was that scene towards the end when the Twisted Sister guy, which I think is Paul, he's the goofy one, always got that weird smile on his face and the long Twisted Sister hair, blonde hair. But they toss up a bathtub of holy water and garlic up onto his face. But just prior to that, I think the guys had garlic, and then he goes, "Garlic doesn't work, boys." And they said, "How about holy water?" And then they splashed that up, and it just started messing him up, melting him like crazy, right? So it's interesting because garlic is normally a really bad deterrent for the vampires, but in this one, not so much. So I'm okay with them twisting the rules a little bit as long as we still stay true to the monster.
The concept that in order to become, the concept that there were half vampires and half vampires could effectively be cured.
That's much bigger.
That hook is what allowed Michael's story to really become so compelling, because otherwise it was one of those things where as soon as he turned, you knew he was done. And honestly, going into it, that's what I was expecting. And it was a very pleasant surprise to hear that, no, we could technically reverse this. And it I don't know, like it was very, very unique amongst vampire movies. And I think overwhelmingly more good than bad.
Yeah, because some could maybe say that, no, that's a cop-out. You can't be able to reverse it. Well, I think you can. And I think it was a great, like you said, piece. And the movie wouldn't have existed otherwise. There's no other way you could have done this movie, because it's Michael's story as he's turning. It's Sam's story because he's trying to save his brother as he's working with the two goofball frog brothers, also played with the other Corey Feldman. And I'm not sure what the other guy's actor is, but you guys can look him up on IMDb if you wish. Maybe I'll toss it up here on the screen while we're going. But yeah, and the comic relief in between this film is so amazing, because there's scenes where you may not be dying laughing. That's not the point. It's not a comedy, but you're chuckling and you're laughing because it's silly scenes mixed in with this horror thriller film, which is very dangerous for horror thriller because it can actually pull you from the experience and be like, whoa, wait a minute,
Right.
am I watching this or that? And did you ever see Shaun of the Dead?
I did.
Okay, so the first time I saw Shaun of the Dead, I don't want to get on too much of a tangent here, but I want to make a point. First time I saw Shaun of the Dead, we saw it with a group. We saw it with Gillette and some of the others. It was a big crew of us. We saw it at the theater, and I tell you, we left there kind of confused by the movie. And I think it was
That's
just,
fair.
it was just kind of, I think the way it just happened. But I was just like, I was getting very confused. I was like, am I supposed to be laughing or feeling for the kids by the end, right? Sean's mom,
Right.
spoiler, whatever, gets in this and that. And I'm like, man, I want to feel for him, but then they're trying to still interject comedy. And I'm like, I didn't get it. But then I saw it about a year or two later, and I fell in love with it. And ever since, it's one of my favorites for sure. But it's just that danger of trying to interject too much comedy when you're trying to show a thriller or horror film.
Yeah, I think the kind of like you were saying earlier, they did a good job of injecting enough that it wasn't a comedy movie. It may be, back to your Shaun of the Dead reference. I think the thing about Shaun of the Dead is it was predominantly a comedy movie with a horror premise, whereas I think this was a horror suspense film with a comedy element to it.
Right.
I think part of why the comedy succeeded is there were characters who were there, like the comedy was believable. Like the grandfather was funny and he was a little odd, and you believed that he could be that odd. And then the Frog Brothers were also really odd, but it was like kind of this believable, like comic, kind of dorky, kind of odd. So I think the reason the comedy works so well is they managed to create characters that were funny but also believable, even in this setting.
Believable and lovable, and you know what I mean, lovable, meaning like you immediately can grip onto them. Adam, I just watched The Walking Dead, right, zombie series. They just released a new show called World Beyond, and I'm telling you, Adam, these characters, I felt so disassociated with these characters. I could not get into the episode. It was almost so blatantly crazy that I'm just sit there and I'm just kind of like, literally, this is my face the entire time. I'm just like, what? And, I mean, really,
Sure.
I look like a goofball, but that's how I really felt. Nothing like that in this movie. Immediately from the first time I saw this when I was in my mid-teens or whatever, I was just on board. Like you said, the first few minutes of the film, and you start to get to know Michael and Sam and their relationship, and then you get the goofy grandfather and even the mom. She loves her boys. You got that dynamic, man. It was a great casting, great music, great cinematography, and the story. The story was solid. I mean, and that's what makes a great film. But interesting enough, though, I don't think this film. I mean, no, I think it had a pretty decent standing when it came out, but I don't know that it was necessarily, like AAA. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the budget was offhand though, but I will say that both Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb, I think it was 77% or something like that on Rotten Tomatoes, and a solid 7.3 out of 10 on IMDb, which it's hard to find movies on IMDb that score as high as that, is not higher. And
especially horror thriller.
Right. Especially this genre. Yeah. I mean, we reviewed The Dead Don't Die and we upgraded it because IMDb, I think, gave it a 5.5.
Yeah.
But, when I was looking up the theme song to this on YouTube, there are a lot of comments, people saying best vampire movie ever made. And there are people out there who will disagree with that.
Sure.
But I think the thing about this is I think it succeeded on a lot of different levels.
Right.
It was a compelling story. It was funny. It had horror elements. It had suspense elements. It had believable characters. And it's one of those things where I don't know if any one specific element was just over the top, done brilliantly. But I think the composition of all the things done well made for a really good movie.
Absolutely. And so I just noticed here, they don't show what the actual budget was, but it made a cumulative gross of over 32 million. And that's pretty impressive for an 80s film like this, back in the day. Even the popularity scale, which I'll show a picture of it, IMDb will scale if movies are trending up or down. It's still trending up these days. I mean, not greatly, but it's still got a green Metascore and everything else, and that's really cool. Like you said, it's got the 7.3. It's only just over an hour and a half long, so you don't have to really commit a super long amount of time to get the story. And it may not be a super traditional vampire movie, but they say pretty darn core to the basics, and it's just a fun one overall. So.
Yeah, and just to add to that, like I thoroughly enjoyed it. You know, I can obviously only speak for myself, and I think if you're willing to if you're willing to bend the rules a little bit to what traditionally is and isn't allowed in terms of vampire films, and kind of open your eyes to a different spin on things, I think this is a film that you can sit down and watch and really enjoy on multiple levels. It's really well done.
So let's ask the audience, just for those devoted ones that actually stick in and actually comment from here and there. So there are some really iconic scenes, I call them, from the movie. And so we were talking about it just briefly before we started recording. So what is your favorite scene from The Lost Boys? Or what is ones that we just, when you see it or if you hear certain things, it just takes you back? Takes you back to that moment you watched it. Adam, I know obviously you just watched it, but I know you named a couple scenes in particular that you were just like, besides the intro, that you were just like, man, this is really gripping me in here.
Yeah, in particular, I mean, yeah, the overhang of the boardwalk at the beginning, once again, fantastic. But honestly, I think the motorcycle scene on the beach, particularly where they're going through the mist, was fantastic. And then the transition when he's transitioning from human to vampire, and they do that montage. It's like you said when we were watching it. How often does a montage like that actually get done well? And I was compelled the whole time.
Yes. Yeah, because what we were comparing it to a music video, right?
Right.
Which, funny enough, you have Cry Little Sister playing in the background. It was that perfect combination. I mean, clearly the cinematographer and the director were in sync and understanding what they were trying to achieve with this movie.
Right.
So my scenes, I'll tell you, iconic ones that I just always remember. Yes, absolutely. The one with the motorcycles going through the forest and then finally getting to the cliff scene or like that, and that song. It's like you know the song. I won't try to sing it for you. I don't want to embarrass myself, but it's just a great rocking song, and it just fits. And the camera angles and they're shaky because it just makes sense because they're following along. So, anyways, that's a great one. I love the main boardwalk when Michael and Sam first get to Cali and they're going down to the fair, and they're doing the song "Still Believe" by the Shawn Michaels guy. I mean, it just puts a smile on my face. I mean, I wouldn't call it iconic, but if I saw a frame of that, I'd say I'd be like Lost Boys '87, love it. They're singing this song, "I Still Believe," and it's just good stuff. And furthermore, finding out the little tidbits along the way of what's the secret that David is hiding, and this should be a spoiler 33 years in, so if you really want to go watch the movie and you don't want to know the very ending, please stop this right now and go watch it, and then maybe come back out later. But here we go, 3, 2, 1. We find out that Max, who's the guy who owns the video shop, who's been dating Lucy, and very cool nod, by the way, naming Michael and Sam's mom Lucy, because Lucy is always the female interest for Dracula and other vampires, other movies. Anyways, I thought that was really cool. But yeah, we find out that Max is the head vampire. What did you think when you finally saw that, Adam?
It didn't surprise me. I think his dog was the biggest hint, combined with Sam reading the comment while the dog was barking. Yeah. But I thought it was still a really cool reveal, and kind of like all the other vampire reveals in it, you can kind of see it coming, but they left just enough doubt that when it happened, you're still slightly surprised, and it's still a big moment.
Right, you're kind of like that. I knew it was you or something, because I mean, for a little bit they almost play it off pretty well that it's not Max, and he's likable too. I mean, I'm not saying he's a favorite character, but it's like, this guy seems all right, or he's trying to be nice to Sam. He's polite. But when he walks back in, he goes, and when he walked up there, this some great shots when he kind of takes David's face after he's been speared, and he kind of turns it back to him, kind of looks at him, and you notice he's clean shaven. Did you notice that he looked like he was younger, probably when he was first turned? Maybe he wasn't such a bad boy. Maybe he was just a normal teen, before he went,
Could be.
But either way, and then he kind of walks back in and he goes, "I'm sorry, Lucy. This is all my fault." And I'm just like, this guy, I mean, the balls. Of course, he's a head vampire, so of course he has them. But and he's explaining to her nice and simple. He goes, "I knew if I could get Michael and Sam and family, I mean, I was like this is just a perfect, simple story, and it works. It works.
Yeah.
So,
and
go ahead, finish it off.
Go ahead.
No,
and I was going to say, and to add to that, I thought every character was believable. I think the guys who are actually the Lost Boys, like the vampire crew that recruits Michael, yes. I think they all just loved being vampires. They just loved it.
Yeah.
I think Max just wanted a mom and a family to go along with his Lost Boys. Right. Like, everybody's motives were believable and relatable. And I think that was another thing that another thing this movie did well is everybody was relatable on some level.
And that's what makes a great story, relatable characters, and I think you have a winner. And then some great cinematography in between, right?
Yeah.
So
great cinematography.
So so Lost Boys, 1987. Here Adam is, we're grown, moving into our middle ages, almost, kind of, whatever, and it's still a great movie, seeing it these days. So if you haven't seen it, get out there and check it out, and you might just surprise yourself that 80s films can still be awesome even today. So with that said, I am Mike, and this is Adam with the ZMAM Show, and we'll be looking at some other fun stuffs probably coming up. I think since this is the month of October, we will probably tackle a few other scary thriller type flicks maybe. And so make sure to come back and check it out. Make sure those are on Wednesdays. Make sure to come back and check out The Walking Dead, World Beyond, and Fear the Walking Dead reviews. That'll be coming up every Sunday late night because it takes a while to get those done. But I usually have them out by about midnight or so, Central Standard Time. Or you can watch them on Monday when you wake up. So thanks again for coming out. Like and subscribe if you did enjoy. And we will see you guys at the next review.
Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.